How we doing, everyone? Welcome to our module of Omnichannel. There's lots of good questions here. This is a decent set of articles we have. So because we have a lot of stuff to cover, we're going to dive right in. Do you really think that the timing of promotion emails we receive play a role in how much merchandise and purchase would process from a retailer, or how much time the person would spend on the retailer's website? There are multiple things that would affect or impact how much time you spend on a website or in a store. And there is no question that promotional activities, either in terms of discounts, sales, exclusives, recommendations, would impact it. The data is there. There are many studies on this. We're good here. A lot of retailers offer ways to try items from the comfort of their home. The L'Oreal app is pretty cool. That Wayfair thing. How do these retailers take one step forward in these capabilities? What do you think is next? Well, having your makeup on the iPad and seeing what your face looks like is one thing. But having the items there for easier transaction and purpose is another. Same thing is see what your house would look like if it's set up this way. But if you can't make the transaction right then and there, I'm starting to see more and more technologies in the store. Okay, I'm starting to see. I just read a Business Week article not that long ago. Within the it was part of my trip. I took like a stack of Business Weeks with me, so it was like the last 10 magazines. And you go into the dressing room, and there's a mirror, but it's not an analog mirror, it's a digital mirror. As soon as you walk into the dressing room, the mirror lights up. All the RFID tags on the clothing that you have immediately light up on the mirror. They see the sizing, they see the styles. They make recommendations based on what you have in the dressing room versus what you didn't have. And also, if the sizing's not there, you just press the button and you can have it shipped to your house. I mean, that stuff's pretty cool. That's very cool. I mean, really when it comes down to it, when we talk about this article, The Future of Shopping, on page 74, it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. John Wanamaker, Philadelphia retailer. Remember John Wanamaker's famous lament that he knew he was wasting half his advertising budget, but just didn't know which half. By doing more omni-channel, both digital out of store and digital in store, you're making the analog digital, which means it's trackable, which means we have a CRM system, which means we have algorithms, which means it's easier for us to track and monetize our existing client base. At the same time, it makes it easier for us to provide value to our existing customers, client base. The article suggests that there are companies which have a technophobic work culture. How do these companies change their image and attract talent? Oh boy. I mean, if they're technic-phobic and they're looking inward and they're not fanatical about customers, they're not paranoid about competition, and they have no inter-firm communication, and they're not market-oriented, these companies are not going to survive. You need someone to come in and rewrite the ship, which may include getting rid of lots and lots and lots of personnel at the firm. Otherwise, JCPenney's will go under, and retail store after retail store after retail store will go under. Is this the end of the concept of loyal customers? No. As a matter of fact, I made the case both in the SAT loyalty module and the CRM module that this could create more loyal customers. That once you start using Warby Parker, you will never use anyone else. Once you start using one of these omnis, you will never use anyone else. You can look at Amazon, and people may be price sensitive using Amazon, but they don't shop anywhere else other than Amazon. The article is touting Macy's prowess in the digital area. This was all PR. Macy never really had any prowess in the digital area. Smokescreen. Yet they're not doing well since the article was written in 2011. It's because, it was more a Business Week story than it was actual practice. Macy's never went all in Omni. They never did. They never did. Are sales events still necessary for retailers when online navigating used to be discover pricing? Sure. But what happens is that when you have dynamic pricing, i.e. Amazon can change the price of an item 100 times a day. When we think of sales, we think of old school retailing where you set the sale price for a week or a weekend or a day or a Black Friday. And what you should use is price promotion to get someone past browsing to actual transaction. It's something as simple as, if you come into my retail store, I'll give you a discount. If you turn the app on when you get into the retail store, I'll give you 20% discount. Because the app therefore becomes the digital bridge between the non-digital and the digital. And the app can therefore pull the customer's data stream and customer product history, and given the store that they're in and given the inventory that's in that store, make specific recommendations with strong price pushing, and if they're in the store, they're going to make that decision right then and there. So articles written a few years ago, as Amazon's average ROI changes. What is it now? Amazon has very, very low return on investment when it comes to retailing. They have less than 1 to 2% margins when it comes to the stuff in the stores. It has not changed. It's the same. How should management be tracking the conversion rate from organic sales that start online but front conversions at the store and location, or vice versa? How's management accounting for this piece? Well, most management are not, because they may be able to track online, but they can't track in store. Where if they decided to come up with a system to be able to track the customer, regardless of whether they were in store or online, then you'd be able to make recommendations. Then you would be able to make, price promotions depending on the situation, depending on the location, depending on the channel. It comes as simple as, if I'm not market oriented, I think of Macy's physical and Macy's online. Because I am Macy's and I'm thinking about it the way that I have these two channels. Whereas I'm Warby Parker is agnostic when it comes to how the consumer buys. They just want the consumer to buy. They have the relationship with the consumer. So whether that consumer does online, whether the consumer does in store, whether the consumer does both, gets the stuff shipped to him from an online location and then goes to a physical location to complete the transaction, Warby Parker doesn't care. They're agnostic when it comes to how the consumer purchases. And they just want to make it as easy as possible, physically, digitally, or both. And they're more oriented towards consumer behavior than Macy's is. Is it possible to stay cutting edge and ahead of the trends? Yes, it absolutely is possible. How? Well, it's something as simple as, one, constantly investigating your customers and being externally oriented. And B, why don't you just go into social media and get a social media listening tool and listen. Hear what the crowd is talking about you. Hear what the crowd is talking about your competition. Hear what trends are happening. And if you don't pay attention and make changes on that, well then shame on you. You're not market oriented. How easily can a company adapt to industry disruption to satisfy customer demand? Well, it depends. It depends on the company. Some companies that are market oriented adapt very quickly. If you want to talk about Facebook knew that Snap was getting much traction with their stories kind of thing. Snap was getting 25% growth quarter after quarter after quarter. Facebook releases Instagram stories and Snap's down to 9% growth quarter after quarter after quarter. It only took Facebook about 9 months from recognizing the threat to implementing it for them to stop. It wasn't even a year. Which retailer would you say is the strongest omnichannel? Warby Parker. I think Warby Parker is the future. I think Warby Parker is the future of retailing. Period. That is what you should be doing. And Amazon scares the bejesus out of me because what I hear what Amazon's doing in their physical stores out in Seattle that they're experimenting with, surprise, surprise, you cannot make a transaction in the store unless you log in. Is there anyone to check you out in that store? No. If you go into the store and you put something in your basket, you purchased it. If you take it out of the basket, you didn't purchase it. If you put it back in your basket, you made the purchase. There's no checkout. The transaction is there. You put it in your basket, you're done. With the huge amount of personal consumer data available to retailers, can you ever see a point where pricing is tailored specifically for an individual? Yeah, of course. Look what the airline does. If the airline has 140 seats in that plane, how many different prices does the airline have? 140 different prices. It is possible to tailor pricing specifically, or even tailor promotions specifically for a person at that point in time. What are your thoughts on Amazon Go? Do you believe their technology checkout line is very well probably lose? I don't know how fast it's going to expand. I really don't. Amazon has multiple things going. I mean, why would they do in-store and Amazon when they're going to have drone delivery in 3 hours or less? Or both. Amazon radically experiments all the time. But I'm telling you, what Amazon is doing from a retail perspective, traditional retailers are not doing. And Amazon, just like they do in their online experience here, everything that happens in store is data-driven. If a retailer target or personalized an offer to me while I was in store, wouldn't that be creepy, or is it too soon to be in the new normal? In my eyes, everything's creepy. It's all creepy. But if the WIIFM, what's in it for me, is so strong, you ignore the creepy pretty quick. You would. You absolutely would. You absolutely would. Okay. Competing against free. Excellent, excellent article. Another article to make you think differently. If this was something that was really interesting to you and you were still looking for a book, Chris Anderson of the Long Tail Frame of Wired Magazine fame. I said frame, I meant fame. Yeah. Free. Free. Interesting book. One of the most interesting parts of this article, I think, are page 108 and 109. The 4 tried and true strategies when you have free and you bring a large crowd in. And what do? You upsell, you cross-sell, charge third parties, or you bundle. I mean, this is straight up strategy 101. This is a solid article. I don't think it's disappearing from the packet anytime soon. Do you think that freemium models are more effective and they can be used better to compete with free offerings from competitors? I don't know about more effective, but I know they are effective. And I know they can be used. And I know they induce trial. And I know they help build an audience and a crowd. And I know it's easier to convince someone who's already been listening to your podcast or visiting your blog or doing something for free for 12, 18, 24 months to get them to buy something than it would be for you to persuade someone who's never heard of you. You think Verizon, an incumbent, acted timely with its unlimited offering? They did not act timely. T-Mobile's been kicking their head in, a little smaller competitor. They did not, I know personally, because I've heard the stories, they did not want to do unlimited. They did not want to do unlimited. They were unlimited. They moved away from it because that's what they wanted, and the consumers, particularly from their competitors, kept asking for it. And it's unlimited, but wait till you see all the throttling and all that. It's unlimited with strings attached. So the article discusses how different managerial mindsets delay a company from counterattacking a competitor's free price offering. Agreed. How could a company work cross-functionally to prepare or improve this process instead of leaving to the final say of the executive leadership? Well, this is an example. I mean, we started the semester with market orientation. This is a perfect example where the firm does not discuss cross-functionally. The firm is not learning from the external environment. The firm thinks more about their own political processes than it does about their particular customers or staying alive. You know, I apologize for being a broken record, but this is how firms go under. This is why BlackBerry has 0% market share now, less than 6 years after having 43% market share. 6 years? 6 years? 6.5. As recently as 2010, okay, they had not only double digit, but they had somewhere between, like 35 to 40% market share. 6 years later, they got 0. How should companies always offer a free version of their product or service, or should they eventually charge for it once demand decreases? If the strategy is to build a large crowd, and then only you build that large crowd by offering something free, if there's enough customer and revenue from that crowd of the free that you can easily market to that are more receptive to your marketing messages. I mean, a perfect example is the largest social media blog out there is socialmediaexaminer.com. They have a podcast as well. And the podcast gets 110,000 listens an episode, and the blog gets 3 to 4 million hits a month. All the content is free. They are the largest how-to social media blog on the internet. And they're really good. There's no ads. There's no sponsorships. So how does this organization make money? They do make money. They make somewhere between $8 and $10 million a year. It's only about 9 people. So what do? The blog fuels either the online conference in the fall or the face-to-face conference in the spring. The online conference, which they'll sell 5, 6, 7,000 $499 registrations. The in-person conference, they charge $3,000 and they cap it at 5,000 people. It's a hell of a lot easier to get someone to come to your conference if they've been listening to your podcast for 2 years. Because they already trust you. They already hear the value added that you deliver. So to cross the Rubicon and say, okay, I'm going to drop the $3,000 and go to this conference, it's a hell of a lot easier to do than to just put banner ads or write a blog post or put inserts into a magazine. At the end of the article, the author suggests the inevitable strategy is to match free for free. Personally, it gives me this feeling. So you've been ripping me off for years, but now you're threatened, so it's free. Do you believe this to be impactful consideration? And so do you suggest that you shouldn't match free for free, leaving the only motivation to improve business model as solutions? Okay, so it comes down to how do you want to monetize? In today's day and age, we monetize differently than we did in the past. Let's look at the music industry. All right. There was a time period where albums, then CDs, were a revenue-generating stream. And due to market forces beyond their control, the recording industry have a very difficult time monetizing on either vinyl sales or CD sales, or digital sales. The only way they really can monetize now is for the streaming services to pay them royalties. So, the way I read this question is, this is a company wanting to stay to their guns, and this is the way we operate, this is how we've always operated, and guess what? This is what we should do. And you kind of have to go where the market's going. Consumers change. Your competition changes. If you don't change, you'll be left behind. Is it even possible for a company to compete against free products? Yes, absolutely. Because usually free products can only take you so far. You should compete against value and how you're delivering the value. Free is one step through the door, but free doesn't necessarily mean better. You could either go, up market, or you can bundle to compete against free. How can companies protect their respective market share from a company entering the market with a free product strategy? Well, your product better be better than the free product. Like, for instance, Chromebooks. Chromebooks are not free, but for $299, it's the cheapest way to get yourself into something. It's even cheaper than an iPad. Okay? But if any of you that have played with Chromebooks in the past know that the screen sucks, the keyboard sucks, and there's no storage, and it's really only so good, which is the way most free products are. They're really only so good. So, you have to compete on value. If a competitor enters the market with a free offering and it amasses users at a steady rate, should an incumbent explore quick buyout or acquisition? Well, yeah. Dollar Shave Club was just recently purchased by Gillette. Dollar Shave Club wasn't an omnichannel because they didn't have any physical locations, but they certainly were a strong enough threat to Gillette that $3 billion is worth it. The easiest way to gain market share or to gain a business model is to buy or acquire. How do advertising executives feel about free products or services? They probably don't like them that much. Free stuff in the long run depends on ad revenue to keep afloat. So advertisers are generally to blame for increased So are advertisers generally to blame for? No. The advertisers are one or two steps behind this strategy. They're reacting to the marketplace. They're not driving anything. No. Should most, if not all, companies ultimately prepare for offering free products and services when their respective markets suddenly become saturated with free products? Probably yes. It's not like the record industry has started offering their music for free. But the record industry has found other ways to monetize, i.e. they've invested in the concert festivals, they've invested more into merchandising and live, they've switched to a royalty-based revenue stream. You're competing on value. You're not competing on free. Okay. There were a number of articles in this packet, but a lot of them are short. Like this Pinterest one was short, but something? Slick. You probably never thought of Pinterest this way prior to reading that article. Do you think reverse showrooming will reverse again? Is it in the opposite? I don't know. You're trying to do an inception on me? Inception, I don't know. It bothers me when I hear people complaining about showrooming. Because when you're complaining about showrooming, it's the same way that people are complaining about. I'll leave the famous artist out of the. Man, these young kids, they don't know about music. When I was a kid, we used to go to the record store and we would browse and we would listen and we would ask questions and I heard it from this one super famous, not yet in the Hall of Fame, but still you would know his name immediately, especially if you're from New Jersey. Hint, hint. And guess what? The guy's whining about what the marketplace used to be. And you can whine about what the marketplace used to be ad nauseum, but it's not going to fix the present. Complaining about showrooming is not going to fix the present. Trying to figure out how to monetize or take advantage of consumer behavior is how you take care of the present. If they're showrooming now, provide value for them to either showroom digitally or showroom physically. Make sure that you get the transaction, otherwise they're going to continue to showroom. How does Pinterest compare to other competitors in the space? Is it the leader? Pinterest really doesn't have... There is another company, actually. I didn't think about that. See how fast I can find it. C-U-R... L-A... Curelate? Did I spell it right? Yeah. Headquartered in Philly. They're really, really slick. They do in-stream connection to final transaction. They haven't gone public yet. Pretty slick company. This is a great topic talk thing. Do a Curelate topic talk. Trust me. I think Pinterest still is the leader, though. But to be honest with you, as good as Pinterest is, I think there's some retailers that have strong enough data. Amazon's better than Pinterest. And Amazon, you're already on the platform and you make the transaction. CVS, Target, Kroger. We can go back to the CRM conversations that we had. Do we know how the traditional models... We know that the traditional model is busted or breaking. What can large retailers do to survive? Well, reduce the number of stores. You don't need that many stores. You don't. The in-store experience needs to be not analog, but digital. And the in-store needs to be more experience than just straight-up traditional retailing. I think Bass, Pro Stores, Cabela's, much cooler. REI, much better experience. How can retailers or any other sort of business track leads that either start or end online? What is trackable? Everything's trackable. Everything is trackable. It's all trackable. You just need to make the non-digital digital. Give them the value proposition or the discounts or the price promotions or whatever you want to get. Make them say, every time you buy digitally, you get something for free. I don't know. Do something that everything is a digital transaction. It all goes into the CRM system, whether they buy digitally or whether they buy physically. Even when they're in the physical location, make that entire experience digital. Is there hope for the big box retailer? Well, there's only hope for the big box retailer if they think about making things digital. Because otherwise they're screwed. I mean, there's some questions here about Best Buy coming up. I think Best Buy is in deep trouble. Even if they're using all digital tools available, can it compete with Amazon? Yeah, it can compete with Amazon. Sure. Amazon there's product reviews, but there's no after-sale service. I mean, sure, you may be able to get an iPhone cheaper, but it's the Genius Bar. A lot of people are buying Apple, or people buy Apple because they know they can go to the store and ask questions. Geek Squad is not necessarily enough for Best Buy. Geek Squad should be free. Although free for people that have a Best Buy loyalty card. Although the author suggests that the effect of showrooming is overestimated, I disagree. I would think the difference between customer categories is significant. I would agree. Does that impact the ability to agree with the author's conclusion? What's the author's conclusion again? Let me hit pause. Instead of feeling threatened by showrooming, retailers should study their customers' path to purchase and use insights gained to hone their online marketing efforts. I mean, between this article and how to make the most of Omnichannel, perhaps the physical location is nothing more than a physical brochure. And if they want to make the decision there, they can, but they really want everybody to purchase online. There you go. And when they purchase online, they automatically get price competition from everyone else, so they know they're not getting ripped off. If Pinterest has helped online activity convert to in-store businesses, companies working with Pinterest to cultivate... Pinterest is understaffed. Pinterest does not have strong connections with retailers. Curate is 2 or 3 steps ahead of Pinterest, and if Pinterest had a brain cell in their head, they should buy Curate before they go public. Can companies work with customers' favorites such as Pinterest to demo products and provide styling alternatives? Why not? I mean, Pinterest has an API. You see what people are pinning. Why not? Absolutely, why not? How can companies benefit from this reverse showrooming trend? I think we've answered this question already. We're good. How can Pinterest get more of its users to start using the site to start purchasing goods? Well, to make a long story short, Pinterest, at one point in its history, did affiliative marketing. And they got busted for it because in the terms of service, it was buried there, but eventually they got sued. They were allowed to put affiliated pins in without getting permission from the person who pinned it in the first place. So, Pinterest did not, and they still don't, do a good job of completing the final transaction. They really don't. Only with independents and with Etsy and stuff like that. 21% of the Pinterest users we surveyed said they bought an item in store after pinning it, repinning it, or liking it. 36% of the 35 that had done so. It seems that the younger generations more actively use Pinterest for reverse showrooming. Do you think that in the future will social media as a whole give greater influence on how people shop? It's not the future, it's now. It's now. I mean, we're going to do an article about online reviews. You find out about everything through your social networks. How else do you find out about things anymore? Is showrooming a thing? Yes. Is webrooming a thing? Yes. It's too easy not to. Should online retailers be concerned about using browsing products online only buy them in physical store later, or is this just an afterthought? Retailers, online or not, should be concerned about how people buy products from another store. Don't get caught up in the channels. Get caught up in the relationships with your customers. Understand consumer behavior and figure out a way to add value so you can have all those transactions. Go back to this article. Upsell, cross-sell, bundle, or charge third parties. Right? Now, this digital physical mashups article is solid. Ahead of its time a little bit. 2014. Really, really impressive though, isn't it? Okay. How can a digital lens change the way we manage our daily lives and transform our industry? Well, this is what you guys should do. If you're really passionate about this and you're really curious, you need to start benchmarking Warby Parker. Not only in how I built this, is there an incredible interview with the Warby Parker guys and how they do it, but if I dig Nuggetville, if you type in market, M-A-R-K, market, O-R-I-N-T, market orientation, Best Buy is not market driven or market driving. Nokia is not Warby Parker is. Complete market you can find here. This was another fantastic interview. This is the RE Decode podcast with Kara Swisher. Let's put it this way. They're so market-oriented. They have 2 CEOs. They've always had 2 CEOs. Think about how many organizations really can survive with 2 CEOs without there being some ego trip. How theory Y is it to have 2 CEOs? We're going to talk about leadership in 2 weeks, by the way. This is an excellent, excellent, excellent episode. Start benchmarking Warby Parker. Warby Parker's got it. Are companies ignoring the digital revolution mostly because they're stuck in their old ways? Yes. And they don't want to? Yes. And they don't know how? Yes. They don't have the people. They don't want to change. They know what they know. And they don't see the threat. And they'll go under like Kodak. They'll go under like JCPenney's is going to go under. Sears is going to go under. They're not going to survive. Wouldn't innovations that fuse digital and physical open up vast new opportunities? Regardless of whether they're in a digital retail or physical retail, the entire experience needs to be digital. And then you can open up vast new opportunities. Because then you have the data stream, you have the CRM system, you have algorithms with recommendation engines. You really do. What is the best approach to going... In what ways can company leaders create sustainable competitive advantages that are flexible to ever-changing technology world? Well, be paranoid about competition and listening to consumer behavior. And then if you stay on the edge or even one step ahead of the edge, that's how... There is no sustainable competitive advantage other than staying ahead. Consumers are going to change and competition will catch you. It's just how fast will they catch you? If you're constantly 2 or 3 steps ahead of them and you constantly stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of them, guess what? They may be able to see you, but they can't react fast enough, and you still have a 6 to a 9 to a 12-month window of profitability before you change and they match you. They match you, but by the time they match you, you've already reverted to something new. What is the next best approach to go about executing fusion strategies if the execution plan is greatest barrier people face, as stated in the reading? The sustainable competitive advantage could be, to go back to the other one, is your company is comfortable with change, and the status quo equals change. If you can culturally get that indoctrinated into your firm, you're good. What is the best approach to go about executing fusion strategies if the execution plan is the greatest barrier people face? The execution plan is not the greatest barrier. I disagree with that. The greatest barrier is culture. That's the greatest barrier. You can't make a non-CRM firm CRM firm. You can't make them culturally MO. They gotta have the right culture first, otherwise no fusion strategy is gonna work. Seems like Best Buy's had success in fusing digital and physical. Is that the case? I don't think it's the case. I am a Best Buy customer, physical and digital. I don't think they fused the two. I think Amazon would smoke them. If Amazon went physical, Amazon would smoke them. Best Buy is lucky that they have fewer competitors in the marketplace now. There is no Circuit City anymore. There is no other large big box electronic stores anymore. There's just not enough room for big box electronic stores. To the point where even Best Buy does not have great margins, and Walmart, Target, and Amazon still eat them away. And then you got small regional players like H.H. Gregg and all that other things. So No. In an ever-changing business environment, how can companies increase and expand on their flexibility mindset? It's got to be part of their culture. It's got to be part of the culture. It's got to come from the CEO. It's got to be within the organization. Macy's does not have flexibility as part of their culture. They don't. So what happens? They get excited about a campaign, and they do a campaign, and Christmas sales are flat, and they close 100 stores. This is the second time in, 3 years that they've closed, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of stores. How can organizations start changing or building the successful integration of their physical operations? Well, they have to integrate so there's only one operation. Warby Parker is agnostic to how the consumer buys. The online and the physical, you literally could start in one channel, finish another channel. They are completely 100% seamless. Can't say that for Best Buy. You can't say that for Macy's. If a CEO is not tech savvy and they have a hard time hiring tech savvy people, what steps should the company take to bring the CEO up to speed and on the digital world? They should hire tech savvy people, or they should just buy a company. Walmart just spent I don't know how much they spent. I want to say $3 billion, but I already said that earlier about something else, so I'm not sure if it's $3 billion. They bought Jet.com primarily for the people and the knowledge. In the Silicon Valley world, we call this acqui-hire. You need talent, you need people, you buy their startup primarily because of the people. That's what Yahoo did for years. Yahoo didn't capitalize on it, but that's what Yahoo did for years. Couldn't retailers consolidate their physical store investments by not carrying inventory and only housing items to try on or sample prior to buying them online? Perhaps. But then you're defeating the in-store possible promotion, nudging, cross-selling, unintentional purchasing. Because as per this article, getting people in the store is more profitable in many cases because they buy other things other than the one thing that they need. How did companies like Birchbox, very interesting, and Warby Parker make the integration or mashup of digital and then physical so easily when others have failed? Well, it's easier to go from the digital to the physical because if you're going from the digital, you already have a lot of the mindset that you need. You have the current culture. It's the old school bricks and mortar people that can't think digitally. It's harder for them to cross the Rubicon than it is for Warby Parker to cross the Rubicon. Alrighty. Online reviews. By the way, most online reviews are fake. Almost all 50%, a lot of them. What is the best way for retailers to get information out to customers? The best way for retailers to get information out to their customers is through their own internal promotion channels. Because we know if we have a CRM mentality, existing customers are more profitable. It costs us less to market to existing customers. Existing customers tend to buy more, bigger baskets, more frequently. You need the communication channels, the internal branded communication channels, whether it's email, whether it's social, regardless of how you do it, whether it's an app, I don't know how you want to do it. But if retailers have a strong relationship with their existing customers, there isn't one, digital promotion. It's the way to do it. Look at Amazon. That's why Amazon's smoking everybody. What has the importance of a brand name become lower? No. Although there are more opinions and reviews from experts and users, I still would think brand names would be dominating and not going down. When it comes to it, nothing is better than brand, period. I'm a big brand component. I made you do 2 weeks of brand articles because I think brand could trump the aggressive price promotion that we see in online. I really do. Especially if you have CRM to back it up. How do the consumers who are dependent on the peers' information about a product confirm reliability and everything they receive? Well, think about it. When you're indecisive or you don't know or you are exploring, you are very dependent on peer information. Because otherwise you're just guessing. So, it could be the case where they read certain reviews, they made a purchase, the reviews didn't match up with the purchase, and they'll never trust that site again. They'll never go to Yelp again because Yelp said it was a good restaurant. They went to the restaurant, it was terrible. Then they're going to be like, well, not only is the restaurant bad, but now I don't trust the information source that I got it from. Why do consumers not trust the information from relevant manufacturers of the products and instead consult social media? Easy. Who would you trust? If you were hunting for a car and you were car shopping, who would you trust? Would you trust the ads that you see from Chevrolet on TV? Or would you trust your friends and or family members and their experiences with the cars that they drive? You trust your friends over all other sources. And how do you communicate with your friends? Digitally. Social. Do you agree with the author's conclusion regarding the idea that retailers will continue to come up with more sophisticated ways to weed out bogus product reviews, and the trend of increasing use and reliance will continue? Product reviews are invaluable. They're going nowhere. And yes, Amazon and other companies are doing more stringent digital efforts to get rid of whack job product reviews. Not negative ones, but untruthful ones. To increase peer-to-peer reliability and enrich digital communication, shouldn't companies provide some sort of customer incentive to purchase feedback? I don't know. Maybe, But then as soon as you incentivize consumers for feedback, then it's going to come off as inauthentic when that incentivized person is then talking to his digital community. It's going to sound fake. There was an ad agency that was popular up in Boston when I was teaching up in Boston called Buzz Agent. And they just, through free swag, got people to do lots of reviews. And it always, you can spot the fake reviews. You can spot the inauthentic ones. You can spot the ones that seem whack. How can organizations utilize product reviews to improve customer satisfaction? First of all, I don't care about customer satisfaction. We did a customer satisfaction module. Satisfaction is not relevant. Satisfaction is not helpful. Satisfaction is not something we can count on from future purchase stuff. So forget satisfaction. The statement is satisfaction is not enough. We want loyalty. Right? So amplify loyalty word of mouth. How should marketers adjust their marketing strategy to address online reviews and peer-to-peer information trends? Well, as simple as using a social media listening system. It's that simple. Trusting the market. Trusting the conversation in the crowd. If marketers could do that as opposed to looking internally and being the CMO and the CMO saying, this is what I think we should do. No. CMO shouldn't say this is what I think we should do. The CMO and the rest of the marketing team should decide what they should do based on what the crowd is talking about. What is the reason that chains and franchises see revenues decline in large cities where people rely on Yelp reviews? Is it because they're always getting bad customer reviews? No, it's just that there's more choices. There's more choices. There's more options. There's more competition. What are some of the ways, other than reviews, to monitor a company's online reputation? Social media listening software. Hootsuite, Radiant6, Trax. As the saying goes, bad news is better than no news. What about online reviews? Are bad reviews better than no reviews for a company? And so, I hate to say this, but the more conversation around you digitally, the better. Even if a good chunk of it is negative. Because in Google's parlance, guess what? Google tracks conversations and links. And in the world of digital, especially when it comes to social media listening systems, I said this before, sentiment, either positive or negative, the software cannot determine positive or negative. And someone has to go through and actually sort that themselves. And a little negative to offset the positive, make the review seem more real anyway. Pause for a second. All right. Let's wrap this up with this one. How to make the most out of Omnichannel. In our first class, we discussed a prediction that there were barely any retail outlets in the next 10 years, or that most sales will be done predominantly online. I might have said something like this, and to clarify, I will say almost all sales will be done digitally, whether you're in a physical store or not. Within the next 10 years, I would bank on that. Is retail completely going away? No, it's not, because we like retail. However, is retail going to sustain itself the way it is now? No. No. What is your take on Miss Lou's? By the way, it's Mr. Okay. He's one of the top 15 or 20 most published researchers in the marketing discipline. So it is, I've met him a couple times. It's not Miss by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm with it. Because this guy's legit. Are the results skewed because of research? No. I don't think so at all. I mean, and there's nothing to prevent any retailer from taking this methodology and testing it in the U.S. You know. The only difference would be, you probably have to test it in similar densely populated scenarios such as New York or Chicago, but the results are not skewed. How is online shopping affecting manual labor and people working at the stores? Well, there will be less people at stores. I mean, there will be less people at stores. There'll be less people working at stores. Is there any industry that is immune to this process? High-quality service-oriented industries? Is there any industry that is immune to this? Well, usually the industries that are immune to this are industries that have heavy regulation, either governmental or otherwise. So government-oriented, healthcare is highly regulated, legal is highly regulated. Even like real estate has regulations. If there are some sort of barriers, think of Porter's 5 Forces model. If there's no barrier to entry, nothing's immune. And maybe going up market is your only defense. How can an organization integrate Omni into its business strategy? I think we've already answered this. Can Omni retailing business model jeopardize the company's bottom line? No. Why would it? How could it? I mean, retailing in general does not have fat profit margins. That's not what retailing is about. So, no. Should retailers want customers to shop in both channels? Yes. Does this still hold true? Yes. Why not? You should be agnostic to how your customers buy. You just want to make sure that the customers continually buy from you, whether it's in-store or online, but them buying you versus them buying versus your competition, you'd rather have them buy from you. Companies that began as online only have started to invest in brick and mortar. Do you agree with opening physical locations rather than online only? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Are we moving towards a completely online world? We're moving to a completely digital world. And whether you're physical or whether you're online, physical does not mean not digital. And that is the difference. I know I've already said it a couple times, but that is the difference. Is that's one takeaway from this entire module you get. That is the takeaway. Physical does not mean non-digital. We have physical stores and Amazon's open. Is it too early to tell? It's not. Well, Warby Parker is a monster hit. Amazon's too early to tell. What are some of the challenges for omni-retailing, especially when it comes to supply chain and logistics? Well, I think if you're used to, it's not the supply chain and the logistics, is some of the digital retailers aren't probably used to training in-store customer experience personnel. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. But usually, supply chain and logistics, the digital people know this better than the physical people. Or the digital people have an easier time with dealing with this. And the digital people are more about going direct anyway. There's less wholesalers, there's less middlemen, there's less chain anyway. You know, during the holiday shopping season when the strategy be tough to manage. I don't know. I really don't know. Amazon does tons of hiring for the holiday season, just like every other retailer does. So I don't see it. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to go find a link that you think will be interesting. May the force be with you. I am out.